Hey folks, how are you liking this new groove we've gotten into? You liking it? You hating it? How you feeling about it? So, okay, let's recap what has gone on with this channel. So, a little bit ago, Wooly played Waku Waku 7. I was like, oh my gosh, I have so many things to tell you. Will you feature a video? I made a video. People watched. I was really happy about that. And then I started, like, actually making videos more regularly because things kept happening. I got really worried about Sense and Sensibility, or yeah. And worried that might have caused me to lose viewers, but I checked my social blade, and apparently things are fine, but I still check with you guys. And then, after that, though, I produced this Reiko Nagase retrospective. And I poured my heart into that. Spent a week working on it. And then no one watched it. And it's not your fault, because if you don't want to watch something, you don't have to watch something. The problem is that I don't have enough people who are willing to just go, what the fuck is this? Fuck it, why not? I'll watch it. And that made me realize that I need to draw more eyes to the channel and I need to get more viewers. Now, again, I don't want to chase views. I'm not doing this for money. My channel is not monetized. But I would like it if the next time I put out a bizarre retrospective on something niche, if people, like, were actually... if someone watched and commented on it. And again, it's not you guys' fault if you didn't watch that. Can't blame you. It's a weird topic. But still, I'd like it if... I'd like more eyes on that. And so I started looking at my numbers, and I noticed that stupid Dungeon Fighter video is doing amazing. Like, that's one of my best videos. I shat that out in 2 days. And I thought about it. It's like, well, of course, I commented on something recent that was in the news. I gave it a proper thumbnail, and I actually approached it from a different angle. Because back when I did that video, everyone was just, oh my gosh, new Arxis fighter, and that was it. They didn't talk at all about aiding, and they didn't talk, most importantly, about what Dungeon Fighter is. They had no clue. They were completely unfamiliar with the MMO, and so that was why I approached it, and also why I linked to Clear and Sweet's video, because Clear and Sweet's a fun Dungeon Fighter guy, and he did a really good video too. And so, yeah, of course, that's why that one did gangbusters and still gets good hits. The Waku Waku 7 videos started to take off as well too, but I'm looking at this and I'm like, why is this happening? And I look at all that and I'm like, so I need to do more videos on current events. And then a Nintendo Direct just hit. Only part I really cared about was Ring Ring Land, so I made a video on Ring Ring Land. And that didn't get the greatest hits, but again, then other things come out and I comment on them, and that's sort of been the groove I've been getting into, and I'm wondering if y'all are liking it. Now, am I still going to make more long form, spend a lot of time throwing it together, videos like the Reiko Nagase retrospective? Absolutely. Like I said, Asuka 120% retrospective is absolutely planned. Got that in the scripting phase, need to sit down and replay all the games, because, like, the individual detailed commentary on each game is what needs to be added in, along with a little bit of cleanup. And I need to ask around if I can swipe some of Sailor Vic's footage to spice things up. But, yeah, so, I still want to produce more long-form videos, but, I've gotten into a groove where I'm almost putting out a video every week or every other week, really only slowed down by an abscess tooth I got. That's taken care of now. But I wrote like 3 scripts that week and still haven't recorded most of them. Some of them have been kind of rendered obsolete. But I'm kind of liking this. It's almost like the segments of Game Babble Live, except more scripted. And I am kind of getting into the scripted part too. Not only does that mean I have less editing to do of the vocal part, but it also condenses my ideas and gets them out there faster. And I have a good groove, I think, going with the way I'm doing these episodes, because I don't want to waste your time. The way I'm doing it, if you listen, like, there's a pattern. It's always, hey, check this thing out, and then I get the news out of the way for people who are already familiar with the topic, and then I go, but what is blank? What is Asuka 120%? What is Ring Ring Land and Legend of Mana? And then I do the retrospective game historian, this is the thing we're talking about and why it's important, before looping back around and giving more detail on the thing I introduced and perhaps even going on some side rambles. I think that's a pretty good groove that I've got going on here. I've watched so many videos recently where, like, I'm baited in with their title and their topic and their thumbnail, and I'm just sitting there going, get to the point, get to the point. What are you talking about? Explain what you're talking about. And they just waste your time. And I know they're just dragging it out. They're trying to hit that, like, 12-minute mark, 15-minute mark. It's more than 10, less than 15. They're trying to hit that goal. Because that's what YouTube algorithm wants. Which, fuck the YouTube algorithm. Can we make a horror movie about the YouTube algorithm? Dark comedy movie, actually. Be amazing movie if you made a movie called, like, The Algorithm. And it's basically, what if Skynet was the YouTube algorithm? What if we let a mysterious, indecipherable algorithm rule our lives and everyone bent over backwards trying to appease the algorithm, which does the most utterly nonsensical thing? Christ, that'd be a really good movie. Like, you'd have to get really clever with it, but you could make a good movie out of that, because you gotta wonder why that 9-year-old cat video suddenly appeared in your YouTube recommends. It's the most random thing. Just, 9 years later, hey, go watch this random cat video. I don't know. That could be fun. But anyway, yeah. So I just wanted to know if you all were liking this groove I've gotten into. If the idea of weekly, more news-based Game Babble episodes were working, which, of course, the main goal is to always approach it from my own unique perspective. I'm not just going to be a Review Tech USA or a Yongyi or any of those other people who are already doing a pretty good job of just, here's the video game news and presenting it pretty dryly with minimal commentary. They put some commentary in there, but, like, if I don't have something to say, I'm not going to say it. Like, I feel a little bad that I haven't covered the Under Night In-Birth news, but I'm not the biggest fan of Under Night In-Birth, mostly because the character designs are boring. That's the worst part. French Bread makes good games, but, like, all their games have character design I don't like. So, yeah, which I am actually very impressed that it's actually a new Under Night In-Birth and not just another version of it. But that's why I haven't commented on it, is I don't play enough Under Night In-Birth to really say anything about it. Everyone else is already covering it quite well. There's no need. No one's talking about Ring Ring Land. So I'm gonna cover Ring Ring Land even if no one cares. And of course, Asuka won 20%, like, no one's done a video on that. I'm actually really attached to Asuka 120%. Like, I legitimately think Limit Over might be the greatest fighting game of all time. I mean, there's no such thing, but still, it's something I'm researching. I'm pretty invested in this. So, yeah, I was like, I gotta comment on this, especially because no one had made a YouTube video about it. I heard a bunch of people trying to find information on it, and all we have is Sailor Vic's post, and they couldn't even find that, and I'm like, I'll just make a YouTube video on it. Screw it, I gotta be the first to talk about this. Yay! So, we do have that. So, but on that note, I'm thinking of starting some more... sub-series that I'll abandon after 2 episodes. Hey, Jel, how's Warriors Report going? That was actually a successful idea that people liked, and I did nothing with it. I can't help it. Everyone wanted me to comment on Samurai Warriors 4, and I hate Samurai Warriors. Like, Samurai Warriors 4 isn't bad. The Samurai Warriors series never clicks with me, even though Nene is my favorite character in the whole Warriors franchise. Just, And not to mention, that's when the dark age of no multiplayer hit. For some reason, like, around that time, they kept releasing new Muso games that had no local split screen right when I really wanted them, because I had a friend who would have played Dragon Quest Heroes, Berserk Band of the Hawk, and Warriors All-Stars. All would have really appealed to him for multiplayer purposes, but there was no local multiplayer, so it never happened. Still super salty about that. So, yeah, there is... I know Warriors Report fell apart, even though it was a really good idea. I covered Hyrule Warriors and did a Why We Like Warriors game, so that was it. My bad. Might bring it back, who knows? But 2 of the concepts I have bouncing around in my head is, number 1, understanding nerd rage. I think I had another name for it that had a double meaning, but I can't remember it, but actually it might have been understanding nerd rage, because it's like, because I want to understand the nerd rage and also nerd rage in a more understanding way. Because here's the thing. I support nerd rage. I think we need more nerd rage. And that probably sounds really weird because nerd rage is generally portrayed as a negative thing. So why am I on board with it? Well, because behind every bit of stupid nerd rage, there is a legitimate complaint that's being fogged. And I want to illuminate that. Because that's the thing I think game journalists should be doing, and they're utterly failing at it. And instead, they just point and laugh at the nerd rage rather than trying to understand it. Because see, here's the thing. I actually posted this to my Twitter a while ago, and someone thought I was talking about them. And no, I'm talking about nerd rage in general. Here's the thing. Number one, you're angry about something, and that alone is clouding your judgment and making it hard to properly articulate yourself, right? Number two, you're a nerd and you're obsessing over some stupid minor detail. Case in point, when Last Jedi first came out, I asked my friends what was wrong with it, and at least 2, if not 3 of them, got stuck on bombs falling in space and arcing lasers. And that was it. I couldn't get anything better out of them. They were just complaining, this movie is bad because the bombs fall down in space. And that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. If that's all that's wrong with this movie, this is a fantastic movie. But no, they were stuck on that. And they couldn't get past it. And I understand because they're nerds. They're obsessed over this one stupid thing. And like they're stuck. So there's that. And then number 3, nerds famously don't have very good social skills. So you combine the anger, the detail focus, and the lack of social skills, and you get these dumb nerd rage incidents where people are complaining, but their complaints aren't coming through because they aren't articulating themselves properly. And I want to, like, go into better detail about that. Like, easy one of my favorites, the Mass Effect 3 ending. Everyone thought that people were angry because the ending was bad and they hated that Shepard died. Dude, if you didn't see that Shepard was gonna die, like, I knew that was going to happen from game 1, obviously. I mean, for crying out loud, you have this one character that's continuing through all the games, but it's a custom character, and they super matter. Yeah, no, they're going to have a heroic sacrifice at the end, because they're going to want to continue the series past that first trilogy. They're going to want to do a second trilogy, and there'd be no way to continue Shepard. So they would have to start with a new character, and Shepard would have to become a legend many years in the past. Obviously. Freaking obviously. So that wasn't the problem. No, the problem was that they were promised from game 1 that there were going to be multiple endings, and that the choices they made in game 1 would matter in game 3. As such, many people made multiple Commander Shepards to make multiple choices and have all these different save files. And then it continued through 3 games, adding up to like 200 plus hours of play. And then they get to the end, and not only do their choices not matter, but the ending they got made absolutely no sense. You are being lied to your face by a space baby, and for some reason Shepard isn't calling them out because the writers didn't realize they were lying to your face. They didn't realize that they were contradicting events that happened in Mass Effect 3. Someone actually did this amazing, like, 2-hour-long documentary on it that completely and thoroughly explained what was wrong with the Mass Effect 3 ending. And for some reason, it's gone now. You can't find it anymore. You can find people talking about it, but I can't find it. And I contacted the person who made it, and they haven't gotten back to me. They haven't re-uploaded it. And now there's all these videos about how, actually, the Mass Effect 3 ending was brilliant. It's like, fuck you. How are there so many videos defending that garbage ending? No, fuck you. Why was the Game of Thrones... Why was it okay to complain about the Game of Thrones ending, but nothing else? No, but that's the thing, though. It's not about, oh, the ending was bad. It's about, I just played over 200 hours of game. That's not even getting into the fact that a lot of people don't like Mass Effect 2 and 3. Series kind of went off the rails after the first game. But no, like, there's many, many more layers to it. People, like, played 2 and 3 just because the people who liked 1 kept playing 2 and 3 because they were attached to the world and characters. But, yeah, no, those were very different games. Now, I understand some people say 2 is the best of the series. That makes sense because it has the better combat. 2 has way better combat than the first game. But The exploration is gone. The RPG elements are gone. Most of the aliens are gone, too. I was actually very deeply bothered by how much the Hanar got phased out of the series, because I really liked them. I was hoping I'd get a Hanar crewmate, but no, instead they just make jokes about Hanar Asari porn, and I'm like, man, fuck you, give me a Hanar. Fuck your Hanar exploitation bullshit. Give me an actual real Hanar on my team. I was going to pair my Shepherd up with a Hanar. I was all about that. But no Hanar for me. But yeah, no, Mass Effect fell the fuck apart. That game, that is so depressing. Because Mass Effect was darn well nearly the Star Wars of video games. And then that ending happened, and why play any game except the first one? Fuck Mass Effect. Like, yeah, no, it was bad. Moving on, though. Moving on. The other series, and this is gonna sound really stupid, but I was going to do a video on that recent Lola Bunny pseudo-controversy. I think I still am, because possibly as an understanding nerd rage, because I think there's more angles to it than that. It's not really about the characters, but about trends in the animation industry and society that are causing that one really bad piece of Lola promo art to be sort of a last straw for a lot of people. So I think I might re-script that episode and still do it. But I'm thinking about doing a series called Lolaology. Now bear with me here. I have been researching this character for 2 decades. I'm not kidding. Way back in the early 2000s, I did a Google image search for Bunny Girl, and one of the first results I got was that weird image comparing her movie design versus her consumer products design. And I said, what the crap is a model sheet? Where'd this come from? I've never seen this version of the character. I started researching it, and the model sheets for Lola Bunny are full of angry messages scrawled between the animators and consumer products. And there's tons of them. Like, there is so much design material for this one character. It's insane. And so much behind the scenes drama, and they were running late, and so much shit happened. And I started looking her up and looking at the controversy surrounding her, reading message board posts from people who worked on Space Jam, looking into how she's portrayed in the comics. And then I started noticing that you couldn't find any Lola Bunny products at the time. When I started researching this, probably 2003, 2004, something like that. I remember, like, shortly after Space Jam came out, they pushed that character so freaking hard. There were so many products. And then around the early 2000s, they were all just gone. They vanished. They were nowhere to be found. The character was barely even utilized. And I started looking into it, and like, you could find her in the little nooks and crannies of the Looney Tunes series. But she had pretty much vanished by 2003. And that gets stuck in my head. And like, I start researching it, I start looking into it. This was before Looney Tunes Back in Action came out, which that one's kind of interesting. And yeah, there's just a lot of just weird stuff with how this character is portrayed. And I've wanted to do a documentary on this for years. But that would require I have trouble starting it, is the problem. Because you want to start at the beginning. You want to start at the creation of the character. But there's so much more stuff I want to do. Like, I really need to contact some of the people I know were involved in her creation and ask for interviews, like ask them if I'm on the right track with my interpretation of how that all went down, how much I got right, how much I got wrong, so on and so forth. And that makes it really hard to start the documentary, on top of the fact that there's so much I want to say. If I actually did do one, it would be too effing long. And there's so many things I want to comment on that come after the start of the documentary, or where the documentary would start, assuming we made a documentary. There's so much stuff I want to comment on. Especially, like, talking about Looney Tunes show Lola, who is the best part of that show, but is also the anti-Lola. And so that's an interesting topic to cover. And, like, that's, like, one of the first videos I want to do is talk about the Looney Tunes show version of Lola and comparing her to the regular version. And that means actually establishing what the regular version is supposed to actually be. Right? Because I get really sick and tired of people saying the Looney Tunes show version is like an evolution of the character or a better version. It's like, it's a completely different character. It is a completely different character. And anyone who says otherwise is just a flat-out idiot. Now, not a bad character. If they wanted to push the idea that there are two Lolas, if they was, oh, she has a twin sister, oh, the comedic possibilities would be endless then. But that is not the same character. And it's even, and so I kind of just want to do a video talking about that, talking about the obvious differences and what Lola's character is actually supposed to be, just stuff like that. And I want to know if you all would be interested in that. I mean, I'm probably going to do it anyway. It's my channel, it's my show, I can do what I want, but is there anyone here whose interest is piqued by the fact that I'm actually talking about, like, how this character was utilized in marketing and their creation and the drama surrounding the character, and not just, oh my gosh, this is the best character ever. Wow. I'm gonna be honest, I actually don't have a lot of fan art of her. There's some good ones out there, but it is actually a little bit weird for me because I've been researching this character for so long that the fan art kind of makes me go, eh. Especially because, just a lot of it just, like, really doesn't get the character at the same time. There's a lot of layers to it. There's a lot of layers to everything. But yeah, would anyone be interested in me just making Lolology into a series? And hey, maybe after I've made the 30 fucking episodes of it, I can combine it together and then we finally have the documentary. Who's up for that? Because that would be really good. Because then, like, I could just produce a video of what I think happened with her creation and send that to the people who worked on her and be like, so am I right or am I wrong? And then if I actually score an interview with them, maybe we could just make that a separate episode. That'd be cool. That would be really cool. I'd like to track down, like, everyone involved and get their stories. Because, like, that, she's legitimately fascinating as a character. Here's the thing. Lola was, people often describe Lola Bunny as a cynical product of a marketing team designed by a committee. They are not wrong. She was literally designed by like 8 people. They did have a design committee, and she was the idea of Warner Brothers consumer products, just like Space Jam as a movie. However, the people who actually designed her were mostly with Warner Brothers Animation. They were the people who worked on Tiny Toons and Animaniacs. While the concept was soulless, the people who worked on the character desperately tried to give it a soul. They did care. They put in a lot of efforts. They had a lot of design concepts. They really worked hard because, you know, they knew that marketing was going to try to make this character stick around for a while, and they were making their marks on a classic franchise that they loved. They wanted to make it count. They wanted to make something good. And corporate did get in the way to a degree. At the same time, corporate got kicked in the balls in some interesting stealth ways. There's a reason why her name is Lola. That is very much a middle finger to corporate and the culture of the time. Yeah. Oh, there was so much weird shit going on too around that time. So yeah, if that has you intrigued, let me know, because that will definitely make me more interested in doing the Lolaology episodes. I really want to do them. I feel like I'm screaming into the void. And if you're wondering about my opinion of the Space Jam A New Legacy, whatever it's called, Space Jam 2, I think that promo art was hot garbage. She looks mostly fine in the actual trailer. I think the marketing surrounding Space Jam 2 has been a hot mess. Because here's the thing. They didn't properly announce. Did anyone notice they never properly announced Space Jam 2? They teased it like a decade ago in a shoe commercial. Alright? And then the first trailer for it wasn't a trailer for it. It was for a Xbox game creation contest. So they hadn't actually announced the movie. They just announced a contest for making games for the movie. And then that's followed up with like a split second of footage in a ad for HBO premium streaming garbage. And then only on the day before Easter do they put out an actual proper trailer. They forgot to announce the movie. They forgot to announce the movie. But yeah, no, she looks... I've seen worse. There's a few really bad frames. There's a few really good frames. I've seen worse. I've seen better. I question the wisdom of CG Looney Tunes. And I want to know if it's the same people who did the Sonic the Hedgehog movie, because it kind of looks like it. And that would certainly inspire someone to do CG Looney Tunes. Man, Space Jam 2 looks dumb. But Space Jam 1 was dumb. Spoiler, despite being a Lolaologist, I've never actually made it all the way through Space Jam. I've tried multiple times. I have it on Blu-ray. Haven't pulled it off. I've tried. I usually fast forward. Did you know that Lola is only in that movie for 5 minutes and 8 seconds? Yeah. So, hoping you all are interested in that. And moving on, guess what I got for my birthday? Because March 30th was my birthday. I am now 36 years old. I am now officially old. And what better way to celebrate being old than with a Laserdisc player? Yeah! And you're probably wondering about that. Well, one thing I really, really, really want to do, another sub-series I'm thinking of, I want to talk about the old days of anime. I want to talk about, like, the early 90s, because I got into anime when I was very young, back in the 80s, and I live in the Midwest, which is the most anime-starved place on the planet. And I have a friend, good old Horseplay. He really wants to hear more about the early days of anime. He keeps asking me to tell stories about it because it's so wild and weird. Mostly inspired by those weird Anime Labs subs of Dragon Ball, which have angry messages to various anime retailers in these fan subs. And people telling stories about, like, getting their fan subs as though they were, like, buying illegal drugs and stuff like that. It's like, I don't know if I have any stories that exciting, but there aren't enough videos of people talking about the early days of anime, especially with halfway decent editing. I would say if you want to see some of that, look up Cornpone Flicks. That guy deserves way more views. He's great. Cornpone Flicks is a very old guy. He was a YouTuber before YouTube. He used to do these parody movie trailers that I would see at anime conventions, and they were all made before YouTube. His videos are very well thought out. I'm plugging him super hard. And he doesn't do a lot of anime stuff. He's more of a sci-fi guy, but he's a big fan of Leiji Matsumoto's work. So he has a bunch of videos on that and how they were handled in the early days of anime, and they're very, very, very good. Watch all of them. Watch all his videos. His stuff is great. Cornpone Flicks deserves a huge plug, and I want more of that. And Horseplay wants more of that, and I've been thinking about it. I've got a couple other friends from around that time period, and I'm trying to see if I can squeeze anything out of them as well. But I kind of want to talk about those before times, and initially I was going to make it into a video, but that might wind up turning into another sub-series like Paleo Takuology, because another reason I do that is because of Bennett the Sage. who does good videos. But him calling himself an old taku because he started with Toonami hurts my soul. Because I remember when we called those people Toonami kids. So if watching Toonami makes you an old taku, what does that make the people who called them Toonami kids? Paleo takus? And the thing is, I'm not even the oldest. I wish some of the really old people would speak up, but I've actually been spending a lot of time researching the olden days of anime. And how it was handled in the US, kind of to make sense of my childhood, because when I was doing this, I was like 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years old. You know, I was in elementary school. I was into anime before I was in 1st grade. So a lot of the stuff is just foggy and weird, and I vaguely remember it. So going back and actually researching, okay, when did all these different anime companies actually go into business? What was the first animes they produced? What was out around this time period? It's all starting to come together, and I think I can make some fun videos on that. And one of the things I absolutely needed to do was get a Laserdisc player. Because there's a bunch of videos about Laserdisc and how they're cool and stuff, but none of them talk really much about anime. And I always wanted a Laserdisc player as a kid, because it was the thing. Every time we went searching deeply for anime, we'd look for the little Asian community enclaves that would have like the bootleg tapes off TV and stuff. Every time we went out searching for that, we'd usually find like a stack of Laserdiscs there. And I'd just drool over them. I wanted them so badly, but we didn't have a Laserdisc player. It was too expensive. And yeah, no, Laserdisc was the thing for anime, and no one talks about it. No one really talks about that relationship, so I absolutely want to do a video about anime and Laserdisc. So I bought a bunch of anime on Laserdisc, I bought a Laserdisc player, and I want to get a few more before I do the video, but that's on the list. Also, I have an S-video cable in the mail, so I can get some better video quality. I'm hoping I didn't get I'm hoping I got a good deal. Because I was just gonna, the original plan was I'm gonna buy a cheap Laserdisc player off eBay. I passed that along to a friend, and they, actually to, my brother-in-law. And he was like, oh, there's a store around here, that sells refurbished old tech. You should go there. You know, it's screwed, I'll plug them, Alpha Tech. And I was like, oh, hey, that's great. But all their Laserdisc players were too expensive for just a mindless purchase, and they were really far out of the way. So for my birthday, we made a trek down there, and I actually looked at their Laserdisc players in person, all of them refurbished. And like the cheap ones were like $195, and then the most expensive one was $395, but they were willing to knock it down to $350. And I was like, okay, I need both sides play, and I need a remote, because a lot of the features of the Laserdisc player you need a remote for. And what I wound up with was a Pioneer Elite DVL90, which is a combination Laserdisc DVD player. And it wasn't until I got home that I found out people actually thought these things weren't very good, that the Laserdisc DVD combos weren't as good as the dedicated Laserdisc players, not as good as, like, the mid-range to high-range ones. And I'm like, oh no, did I get ripped off? And then I'm looking at the prices people are quoting for good Laserdisc players, and I'm like, oh, maybe I didn't, but sometimes it's like, it's a little old, too. But yeah, they charge $350 for a refurbished Pioneer DVL90, and I'm really hoping, if anyone knows, if that's considered a good price or not. I think we still have the receipt, but at the same time, the only other player they had with both sides play did not have a remote. So in a lot of ways, it's like, this is the best one regardless. Although, weirdly, like, I want to know if it's a TV problem or whatnot, because my, one of the most important features of the Laserdisc is how clean the pausing is on it. And my pause is shaking upside down even with the standard play discs. I'm wondering if that's a problem with the player, with the screen. I guess we'll find out when we get the S-video cables and I hook it up to my capture device. But yeah, I did pick up a Laserdisc player, and it is everything I ever dreamed it would be. Laserdiscs are amazingly unwieldy to handle. Like cripes. No wonder they never bothered to try to make these cheaper and just went for the enthusiast market. Kids could not handle those. I have my hands are barely big enough. The screen keeps turning off because I'm rambling for too long. My hands are barely big enough to handle a Laserdisc without touching it, without touching the center. But yeah, no, there's so much wackiness on Laserdiscs, tons of weird things. Screw it, I'll spoil it anyway. Moldiver. I saw Moldiver on VHS when I was a kid. Loved the first 2 episodes, wanted to see the whole thing. Bought it on DVD. The subtitles for the DVD are closed captioning for the dub. It's dub titled, and it drove me up the wall. Bought the whole series on Laserdisc. And they are dual language Laserdiscs. In fact, they are the exact Japanese Laserdiscs, but they just pasted a US back over it. And you can flip it up and see the Japanese back. But yeah, okay, you can switch it to Japanese, but Laserdisc players don't have a subtitle option. So you turn on the closed captioning for your TV to get the subtitles, but wait, aren't those subtitles just the closed captioning for the dub? No. The closed captioning does not match up with the dub. Those are the actual proper subtitles for the subs. So, let me say this again. Moldiver on DVD's subtitles are the closed captioning for the dub, but the closed captioning for the Laserdisc is the proper subs. And better still, they're incredibly stilted and wonky. There's a part where main dude shouts, "Urusanai!" And they subtitled it as unpardonable. Technically correct, most people would just translate it as unforgivable. But they went with unpardonable. I love it. This gives me energy. And this isn't the only Laserdisc to behave like this. And that's what I wanted to research. That's what I wanted to talk about. That's what I wanted to look into. I absolutely want to do an episode about... I've kind of spoiled most of it, but I do want to do an episode just talking about anime on Laserdisc and why it was such a big deal. So that'll be fun. I feel like there was another potential sub-series I was going to bring up and then I forgot about. We'll remember it later. Probably, the point is I'm probably going to start a bunch of sub-series. I'm going to abandon after 2 episodes. Get excited for those. And yeah, and also there is still another heavy topic I would like to cover, and I'm hoping you guys will pardon me if I do. Yeah. So, that particular heavy topic, and I have a lot of things to say about this, and it's very complicated. But to make a long story short, I have some words I want to say about the ages of anime characters, if you catch my drift. I have a lot of things to say, and I'm very worried about some recent trends I find very, very disturbing. And how they relate to various other disturbing trends I've seen. And I'm hoping that you all will excuse me if I do that episode and have some faith and trust in me to discuss it in a unique and interesting perspective that you might find eye-opening. I know I'm asking a lot of you, but I'm really hoping you can trust me to just be honest and state my opinions, which I guarantee you are going to be different from what you're used to from either side of that debate. Yeah. Before you ask, no, I don't like lollies. I don't. No. No. But it's the fact that there's these, like, weird... what I want to focus on is that there are 9 billion weird borderline cases that are not being looked at or discussed, and I think raise a lot of questions. Yeah. With my favorite, of course, just being pre-time skip Ayane versus Marie Rose. Yeah, you realize before DOA 5, Ayane was 15 years old, right? But Marie Rose is 18. This is what I want to focus on. This right here. Think about that. Think about that for a minute. Pre-time skip Ayane in DOA was 15. So Ayane in Dead or Alive Extreme Beach Volleyball 1 and 2 is 15. Marie Rose is 18. Just dwell on that, run that through your brain a few times. That's what I want to focus on. That right there. Explain this. Make this make sense. This is where we're stuck. And this is what we're not addressing, and this is what everyone is pussyfooting around and making up excuses and not actually engaging with the problem, and instead trying to be moral busybodies rather than actually recognizing what they're doing, and it is having very negative effects. Did you know that it is criminal to watch Puni Puni Poemi in New Zealand, and it has been for probably a decade now? I find that disturbing. This is what I want to talk about. And again, I'm hoping you all will let me do that. It's a weird thing. I'm sorry. I should have just led with that instead of like being all wishy-washy. You and your anime character. I'm sorry. Sometimes I forget who I'm talking to. I hope you all have faith in me to bring up all these weirdo borderline cases and yeah, and that kind of stuff. Either way, though, this has been a whole lot of rambling. I hope you've enjoyed this. I can't wait to hear your feedback if you actually made it through this. And, thanks for listening. Catch y'all later. See ya.